But that's a better outcome than France-Gibraltar.
14-0, right? Oh, that was... But Gibraltar had a player sent-off. So
they did.
That's
and
even
it's,
worse.
the size of a Passamala, Gibraltar.
That's right.
So. Hello and welcome... I've got to do that again now. Hello and welcome to part 2 of Yahoo Football League Weekly with me, Yahoo columnist Neil Humphreys.
And me, Yahoo editor Chia Keong. And I'm back with us,
the very entertaining,
disruptive guest,
Johan from StarHub.
Right. Welcome back, Johan. Thanks for joining us today. As you know, part 2, we get stuck into all things Singapore related. And it's thanks to our wonderful Singaporean viewers, listeners, compliers, readers, commenters.
Here is where they make all the comments.
This is where we get all the feedback.
liveliest comments are from here.
Absolutely. And it's why we have a wonderful sponsor in StarHub.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it's why we have a great deal for you.
Yeah, StarHub is continuing to have the $25.22 for StarHub Premier League package per month. No lock-ins.
No contract.
4K UHD quality.
Yep.
You watch the full match anytime you want.
Yep.
Wonderful. And if you are from the Pioneer generation, it's even cheaper. $12.61.
I am still tempted. I'm grey. I'm still tempted to just go full white, get into StarHub, pretend I forgot my IC, and just say I'm Pioneer one. Pioneer one.
They don't show IC.
But let me ask you before we get into it. I do love, both deals are great, but particularly the Pioneer deal. How did that come about?
Oh, wow. We didn't have time last year to configure that in time, but for this year's season, we really wanted to do that because we know from our statistics that actually Premier League is very much appreciated by the elder generation.
Yes.
And for them, even although we made it significantly more affordable, Premier League at the start when we got it, I mean, it used to be before like $60, $70. I mean, we offer it for standard $25, $60 or thereabout. So what we really felt was important to actually make this as accessible for the elder generation. And it's also part of us giving back to the country. Because Pioneer generation, nice. I mean, I'm obviously not a Singaporean myself, but I have been for a longer time here. One thing I really appreciate also on the way here, I took taxi, always talked to Uncle Taxi. And I was a StarHub customer. And I also watch Premier League. And have you seen about the Premier? Yeah, I got the Pioneer offer already.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And they work so hard, so we feel that's our way of give back.
No, it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful.
As this is the Singapore section of our podcast show, let's keep the discussion on Singapore because one of the other things I've spoken to you about in the past, you've taken care of the streaming generation.
Yep.
I had a fear that you wouldn't be able to take care of the illegal box generation, which is not specific to any age group either. I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. I know you've got a few. About 6 years ago now, I was in Parkway Parade. And back then, those illegal boxes were being sold everywhere, right?
Yeah.
The guy had a stall set up selling the boxes in Parkway Parade outside a telco provider. I'm not naming the one, but you can probably guess. He had the stall right there. And he's playing the EPL from the BBC Match of the Day on his screen. And I'm saying to him, this has to be illegal. I'm a sports journalist. This has to be illegal. And no, it's not. It's this and that. And I thought, wow, at the time, the genie's out of the bottle here. How on earth are you going to get people to actually pay for this content?
Yeah.
So, Johan, how did you do it? How did you deal with the illegal boxes and piracy?
We're still dealing with them as we speak, right? We do that in close collaboration actually with Premier League themselves. So, I mean, just to be fully transparent with everyone, piracy is almost like buying a fake product. And that comes with risks and it has an impact on the system. So the way that Premier League is offering football is based on the premise that they can make some money and earn money from supporters, fans, contributing to that system. Piracy basically takes that away. And that's a risk to keep Premier League exciting and innovative as it is today. So we work very closely with Premier League together on managing piracy and combating piracy. Now, it's also interesting that one of the reasons why you don't see that many boxes being sold anymore is that some of that has moved to apps. And we're in a day and age of cyber security, if I can call it that way. And those apps don't come without any without risk. A lot of these apps are actually, Trojan, and they're staged in Vietnam or that sort of countries. You punch in your credit card details, and I don't need to finish the rest, right? And that's, of course, besides the fact that it doesn't come with the same quality. I mean, if you go back to these boxes, I also saw them sometimes in Sim Lim Square. You see some squarish footballers running with.
No, it's terrible.
So you've got square eyes. So that's not going to work. So, and our vision is that we made price affordable. $12, $25 if I use the rounded numbers, $12.61, $25.20. No contract, so it's as great as it can be. Sometimes we even combine it with other content. And what is important, we feel, in the way forward to differentiate and to make sure that piracy is reduced and ideally come to a zero, also for everyone's protection's sake, is to offer quality and differentiated experiences. And that's what we discussed earlier on as well. That makes it much more exciting. And if you're one of our customers, you can come to these events and we will do anything for you, really, to make it a great experience.
You talk about quality, and that's the one thing. I also last time I used to succumb to the illegal set box thing because the previous price was just untenable. So I went to get one of the set boxes.
It's affordability and quality and increasingly security.
You would think that it's like what you experienced beforehand.
Security.
And then you put in the thing and then you turn on and then it just breaks and breaks.
And there's no guarantee.
Buffers until I get so fed up. I like watch it once and I gave up straight away. Wasted my $100 over on that set-top box.
Correct.
And sometimes quality counts.
Correct. And that was the box, and now it's an app. You punch in your credit card details. It comes from some vague app store or website.
Yeah, and there's a key point about the app. I've done some reading. I've done some interviews on this. A lot of these apps, these illegal apps that are streaming you illegal content, there's human trafficking involved in some of these in Southeast Asian countries. It's been well documented. So not only are you setting yourself up for a Trojan horse scam, these scammers are using...
You are harming other people.
Yes, these scammers are using human traffickers, traffic people to service the apps, to work the apps, to work the scams. Just don't do it.
It's horrific. It's horrific.
It's
so
just
don't do
shocking.
it.
Absolutely.
Nothing's worth watching West Ham that much.
And to that credit, I think with StarHub's price plan and stuff, a lot of my friends in that Liverpool fan group, now they're just switching to StarHub. First they saw the price and it's not bad. They're commenting, the price is pretty reasonable, and then they're all switching to StarHub.
As a fun fact, actually, we did research before we started with PL on what people felt is a fair price point for Premier League. So we did a wide research in the country. Guess what the number was?
24?
$24.90.
It is cheap. I mean,
$24.90 was the.
I think psychologically, anything that's less than $1 a day, effectively, it's that $1 a day mindset, right? It's not even a thicc, is it? A thicc. It's not though, is it? I mean, it's nothing.
Correct.
But on that point, interesting point. So now you've set up this platform and it's great, but what about the other streamers? Because the fear is, or not fear, the concern is, what if Disney was to suddenly start broadcasting EPL or Netflix? Something that's been discussed for years. In other words, the potential to cut out the middleman, as it were. What happens then? Frankly, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. And I suspect, I could be wrong, I suspect one of the reasons there's so much investment from American hedge funds and trust funds is I suspect down the line, they're starting to see that possibility that they could get a global product rather than just a domestic one like the Super Bowl. I could be wrong, but what do you think about that, Johan?
How's the challenge?
All right. Fact first. I like facts, guys. Premier League is for another 4.5 years with us, with StarHub. So till then, no worries. But your question is an interesting one, right? So what is sort of the strategy around sports properties? And I was reading an article and saw some documentaries last few weeks, and sport properties, coming to your point, have become like a very valuable property globally and seen as a very safe investment. Look at Formula One, which changed hands just as an example. So no doubt. Now, having said that, I also know that some of the sports properties, which were in some countries moved to, let's call it, social platforms, failed miserably. So it's not a straight slam dunk in that respect. What I really very much appreciate, not only with Premier League folks, but also with the other sports properties we engage with, they always have one thing which they really state in every meeting. We want to make sure this is accessible to our fans. And depending on who you talk to, the strategy can differ. Over time, I'm sure that there is this risk, but it will only be on the table, I think, if the right holders, in this case Premier League, are reassured that it's in the interest of the fans and it's delivering the quality which they expect it to be.
Fabulous.
Fabulous.
Fabulous. Well, as always, what do you guys think about the StarHub product in Singapore and why you shouldn't rely on those dodgy, crappy,
It is dodgy.
illegal
It's really
boxes
dodgy,
that are
actually.
often funding human trafficking and scams?
It's
That's
really
just my
tricky.
opinion.
No,
Share yours.
absolutely.
Send all your comments too.
Yeah.
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on Twitter, Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
Now, Johan, if you haven't seen our show in the last couple of weeks, it has effectively been the Perry Ung show. Now, I'll tell you who, for the two people out there who don't already know, Perry Ung is a British footballer playing very well for Cardiff in the Championship, one of the key players in the Championship.
Player of the season last season.
Correct. So he's exceptionally good player, very high standard, who has a Singaporean grandfather. So under FIFA rules, he could qualify to play for Singapore under the Heritage Athlete Scheme. We have had more comments about this than the Singaporean presidency itself. What have we got this week?
Yeah, I mean, they just keep coming in. So at Nick9192 said, I think we just need to get over the whole NS fairness thing. I mean, life isn't fair. Get over it. So a lot of Singaporeans have been like, saying that he must serve NS because it must be fair for everybody. So Perry Ung must also serve NS if he wants to become a Singapore citizen. So it has to be, definitely has to be on a case-to-case basis. If you have the skills to pay the bills, shout out to Beastie Boys, yes, I know that lyric, then why not? To be honest, the amount of hard work and training he has put in for his career is probably more tougher than 99% of our NS training.
Yeah, he sounds like So Ray Yong there, doesn't he?
he does,
I thought
he
it was
does.
our national athlete, So Ray Yong, writing in. What do you think first?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been saying that, you shouldn't go yes, in general, NS should be fair. Everyone has to serve. It is our duty. Fair enough. But you shouldn't be so nitty-gritty and to go to, if this one guy who has a special talent and he still die must serve Singapore NS. There are ways for him to work around. If there are ways for him to maybe serve his national service in another manner, we shouldn't say, but for fairness, we shouldn't let it. You need to be flexible in this day and age.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And before I ask Johan this ongoing obsession with defining our Singaporeanness by our national service, which is always put forward by men, by the way, it's never by women, I wonder why, right, is very narrow-minded, firstly. Because if we do that, you're going to start excluding people rather than bringing people in.
It's almost as if they are feeling like, I've spent 2.5 years of my time in doing a lot of hard work. Everybody must do the same as me. Yeah.
But it's exactly.
Yeah.
But this narrow definition of what is and isn't a citizen is just that, very narrow. And I wanted to bring Johan in as a Dutchman because it reminded me of people like Ruud Gullit and Frank Rijkaard, who are the children of immigrants. In fact, I read, and I did not realize this.
You get Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah, exactly, more recently. But Rijkaard and Gullit's fathers came over to Holland together. Can you imagine? Before the kids were born.
Same generation.
What are the odds? So in Holland, I mean, what are the views on things like nationalism, patriotism, who should and shouldn't represent your country? I guess they're beyond this argument slightly, or is it still an issue?
No, I don't think it's an issue. Obviously, you need to, like most countries, I guess, have citizenship. But there is flexibility around that. I mean, Gullit and Rijkaard and quite a few, and there are many more.
David.
Many.
Most of them actually came from Suriname.
Yep.
Correct.
And they have Dutch citizenship as such. So, but there are also cases quite recently in Dutch football where we have talents which have both a Moroccan and a Dutch passport, and at a point in time they can choose to play for Morocco or for the Netherlands, and some choose either way. So I think that flexibility in light of regulation, which is in place, I think is good.
Yeah,
you need to bring the best out of a country. I mean, look at countries like Canada. I mean, my father was a Canadian.
I just don't think we're big enough.
Yeah,
we're not big enough to be so choosy.
The concept of being a true blue Singapore citizen should be cast even wider. Really, I think right, at this day and age, it's so easy to move around, reside in overseas countries, start a family in other countries, and obviously all the nationalities issues come in, and we have to. I think it's time to be a bit more flexible in the nationality issue.
Because if we don't, we're going to drift even further behind the likes of Malaysia, which leads us very nicely to our next comment. And I just think this is a damning indictment of where we are in Singapore.
So this user says that Singapore football must look to Malaysia football. What's happening now to our causeway neighbours is that they are jeeping up their standard. So what he actually means is that Malaysia have already naturalized plenty of footballers in recent years.
8, I think. I counted.
Yeah, last count was 8. They're going to have the 9th one.
Colombian guy.
Yeah, Colombian guy. So you didn't hear about it, but they're already doing it, and then they are like, and they just made a good result in the World Cup qualifiers. They were 1-3 down to Kyrgyzstan before at halftime, I think, and then the second half they scored 3 goals. The last one, the last minute, they won 4-3 in the World Cup qualifiers against Kyrgyzstan, who are about 40 places above Malaysia in the ranking. So that's the way that people are heading: naturalized citizens, heritage players, and not just Malaysia. Philippines are also exploiting using this. And so if every country is doing this kind of naturalized players, heritage players things, and if we don't consider it, then that's how far our own football youth development is gonna take us to.
I tell you what, I could not agree more. As Johan pointed out just now, we live in an international, interconnected world now, intermarriages of races, nationalities, cultures, religions, and that's the way it's going to be. You know, so you're going to have mixed families, mixed heritage from all over the world, loads of different talents, and if we don't utilize them, we are going to get left behind. And to me, it's a very simple choice now for Singapore to make. You're absolutely right. Malaysia has naturalized 8 or 9 players. The latest will come probably from Colombia. It's making us look narrow-minded. It's making us look petty. And in some cases with the NS, it's making us look a bit vindictive, right? Oh no, if you don't do NS, Periang, you're not coming in. So your point is absolutely correct. We're sitting here going, oh, he didn't do NS and he didn't do S and he didn't go to Keong and he didn't do, basic military training.
Meanwhile, Malaysia, 8 of them.
Meanwhile, Malaysia are beating Kyrgyzstan and Singapore are getting beat 5-0 by South Korea.
We'll come to that.
If that's what you want, fine. But the truth is now, no messing around anymore. The truth is, we really cannot have it both ways anymore. The rest of the world is leaving us behind. If you're fine with that, if you want to keep that narrow view mindset that Singapore citizens, men should just be reserved for people who do NS, that's absolutely fine. But accept that we are a minnow. And we are not going to change.
No longer football powerhouses.
And we're going to stay that way. So it's really up to you to make that decision because the rest of the world has moved on. What do you think, Johan?
I think it's really difficult. I think coming to the examples you gave, that's why Dutch football became what became. They had the opportunity to tap into a wider talent pool.
Absolutely.
Call it that way. And that's what you do need.
Absolutely. Which brings us on nicely to the Lions, the South Korea match, which you and I watched.
That's right. Well, it wasn't a surprise. We lost 5-0. For about 45 minutes, we were thought could they spring some big upset? It was 0-0 for almost the entire half, and I thought, and then the Koreans weren't playing that well, and thought, do we have a chance? And then they scored. Just before halftime, that's it. That's it. And sure enough, second half, they just came back, You know, they are so obviously relaxed, and then they played a bit more free-flowing football. And free-flowing football, they play Lee Kang-in and Song Heung-min that's just terrorizing
Yeah, of course.
all the defense, and then they scored another 4 more goals very quickly. So
But it's a better outcome than France-Gibraltar this
14
weekend.
0, right? Oh, that was. But Gibraltar had a player sent off, so
They did.
That's
And
even
it's,
worse.
you know, the size of a Pasamala, Gibraltar. You
Yeah,
know,
that's right.
so
Yeah, so well, not surprising. But one thing I noticed, and I think Neil noticed as well when we were talking about it, the Koreans are beefy.
yes.
Is it?
This is what I want to talk
Big
about.
Missed
size,
that out.
tall,
Yeah.
and then even still fast, and
Yeah.
still as quick and speedy and as tireless and relentless as ever.
Yeah.
They're physically always strong, man.
That's down to your own. I mean, the players' own
Correct.
initiative. They have a good diet, proper diet
Yeah.
that builds them up enough for this kind of things. This I don't think can't be taught. I think this one is all down to every other player.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm so glad a Singaporean said it before the Angmo said it,
Yeah,
right?
a Singapore
Because-
fat guy talk about this.
because I looked at Singapore and I looked at South Korea, and it was David and Goliath. This wasn't just your average discrepancy.
Yeah.
There was something prodigious in the difference in physicality. And because I'm geeky, I looked it up. According to world data, the average Singaporean male, right, I want to get this right, is 1.73 meters tall and 72.8 kg. The average South Korean male is 1.75 meters and 74.7 kg. So about 1.5 kilos. So that's a slight difference, yes, but it wasn't the difference we saw on the pitch.
No,
that was a
absolutely not.
chasm.
Yeah.
And that you can't blame the players specifically. That is coaching, dieting, nutrition, training, and just physical conditioning generally. They are things that can be fixed. They are things that can be addressed. If I'm watching that game, you look at the midfielders of South Korea and you look at the midfielders of Singapore and you're thinking, no. You can't blame that on genetics. Those differences can be bridged with good training, good diet, and good conditioning.
And if Singapore wants to play defensive as they should against top players, I've heard this from Jose Mourinho, who once said, if you want to play defensive football, you have to be even fitter than those playing attacking football.
And stronger.
And
bigger. And that's why it's not a coincidence, guys. So you've got these giants of South Korea and the relatively smaller Singaporeans. First half, it was, what was the formation? 5-4-1, 5-5-0.
9-0-1 or something.
Right? But whatever the formation was, it worked for 40 plus minutes.
And that fell
Second half, they were exhausted. They were utterly exhausted. You can't play that way if you don't have the physicality, if you don't have the muscular bulk.
mental strength to be totally focused for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's the other part.
So there's some, I don't know, man, there's real discrepancies, I think, in our physicalities that can be overcome.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part. But as always, let us know what you think. Is it training? Is it bad luck? Is it genetics? Send all your comments too.
Yahoo Southeast Asia on YouTube, Yahoo SG, Yahoo_MY on Twitter, Yahoo SEA on TikTok.
But visit it, I can't even say it. Finish on a positive note. Myself and that handsome gentleman there will be at Downtown East this weekend. You can all come and join us. Do you want to give us the details?
Yep. So StarHub very happily doing a live screening, free live screening at the Marquee at Downtown East. So it's a big match, Saturday, 8:30 p.m. You all know what the big match is. Man City versus Liverpool, top of table, number 1 versus number 2.
Super big screen.
Ooh, super big screen. The Marquee is big enough by itself. So come down with your football khakis, fun and games,
Yes.
giveaways, prize giveaways. We will be there as well. We'll be actually recording a special podcast.
We will.
Before the match. Come and support us. If you want to speak, you want to make any comments, come up and talk to us.
Yes, talk to us, tech on us. We're big boys. We don't mind.
Yeah.
The best criticisms might even get a prize. There you go.
We can do that.
StarHub goodie bags we're going to give you as well. So do get down to Downtown East.
Downtown is on
And
Saturday.
until that, yes, we'll see you there. And then after that, we'll be back here. Same time, same time. I'm messing up all my words
What's
today.
happening?
Same time, same place. Next week. Take care, guys, and I'll see you
Thank you,
very,
Johan,
very
for
soon.
coming
Thank you,
on.
Johan.
Thanks,
Always a
Neil.
pleasure.
Thanks.
See you.
See you, guys.
See you guys.